Hi, and welcome back to For St. Pete's Sake, the podcast where we deep dive into everything political in Pinellas County and beyond. We're sponsored by the Stonewall Democrats of Pinellas County, and we're here to bring you real conversations about real change. Normally, this is where my co host Christian would introduce himself. He's the president of Stonewall Dems, but he's out this week. So this week it's just me, and my name is Laura, and I am the co host. I'm also the vice president of Stonewall Dems, and we'll be doing this episode solo this week without Christian and without an interview because I didn't think it was right to have a cool conversation without him. So, alrighty. Well, I figured this week what we could do is talk about, um, you know, some of the things that are going on that have occurred in the last week. I mean, really in the last 48 hours. Obviously, it's been a big one with tariffs, quite honestly. We are it is very, the up and down of will they, won't they? How much are they? What's all going to be impacted? Here we are on Thursday about 7:30 on Thursday, April 10th, and right now we are at a 10% across the board tariff rate and 125% on China, I believe, is where we're at, and that is the pause. He did have even higher tariffs on every country in the world, essentially, including islands that are not actually habitated. Habitated? No, I can't. I don't know what word to say, but they're islands where only penguins live, so we don't even have any sort of trade relationship whatsoever with them. So that is what's been going on. How does that impact your day to day? How does that impact us here in St. Pete and in Pinellas County? Well, I know for sure I've seen gas go up. I think it's gone up at least like 10 cents since the last time I recorded. That's the biggest one that I've seen. I haven't gone grocery shopping yet, but from my friends that I understand that it is, there's a $20 increase of just like your regular shopping excursion, not even like just getting regular groceries, even at some of your bigger stores where you can expect getting discounts at like your Costco or your Aldi or whatever. The prices are still already high. I think, let's see, obviously the stock market has gone bananas. It has gone super high. It started off super high and then opened, I believe it was Monday, like crashed, and then it's gone up and down. I have seen multiple people, including members of Congress, some members of Congress, like specifically Representative Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, posted, hey, disclosures of what stock senators and representatives own. That disclosure deadline is May 15th. So, like, this is going to be a really important time to look at those disclosures and look at who bought what stock when. And then I think we really need to investigate who knew what when those sorry, that sounded like riddle, but you know what I mean? Like, who knew what and when did they know it? Because I mean, I don't. There's a plenty of tinfoil conspiracies going on about like why this is happening, why he's doing it, why it's up, why it's off, why it's on, why it's down, like everything. I'm not ready to subscribe any like real methodology to President Trump right now. I just don't think that he has that. He's just never I mean, it's just he's been saying this on the campaign trail for the 2 years he was campaigning that he was going to do this. And so I think we should have not no one should be surprised when he said he's going to do this. Um I am thankful that he called it off to, like, so that the stock market didn't have to, like, get to the point where it crashed and shut down, but, it's done a lot of damage, especially if you're a retired person who's relying on your 401k right now. The last few days have, really impacted. Um, yeah, there's definitely conspiracy theories about by people in Congress or people in power, people around him having the opportunities to buy the dip, as they say. So buy when the stocks are really low and make a bunch of money when they spike back up, and then you can sell or not, or you can hold them, whatever. I'm not 100% sure it's that grand of a scheme, but the problem is even if it was, thanks to a decision from the Supreme Court last term, I don't think it's illegal at this point. Um, because they've basically said that, like, anything, that, like, bribery and stuff isn't illegal if you're an elected official. I wish I would have. I'm sorry, I don't have the case right in front of me. But I know it was like a lower level, like, city council person that was legitimately being bribed, like, by the book bribed, and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they were like, "No, well, he was an elected official, so it's only bribery if he's not elected, I guess." I don't know, but I think that the Supreme Court, unfortunately, with that case, has left some room for people to say, like, this isn't even illegal, and therefore to not, I don't know, but I'm really I just I don't even know where to go, like, how to spin out of this conversation topic, because it's just so, yeah, there's just been so much that has gone on with that, and like I said, I'm time marking it because who knows what it's going to be in the morning. And I know that, I think the last I heard is that he's doing negotiations, I think, country by country, and I don't know, that's not really sustainable either. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll continue tune in next week, and we'll see what happens nationally there. Yeah. But I just wanted to mention a couple other stories that I saw this week. The first one is in regard, kind of also not too far off, related to housing and the cost of housing here in the Tampa Bay area. There was a article in the Tampa Bay Times recently that reported that nearly 25% of Tampa Bay apartments, so that's like Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater. We Nearly 25% of those apartments are owned by private equity firms. So that means they're owned not by, some mom and pop that happen to, own a building, be able to buy an investment property, and your landlord. No, these are owned by private equity firms. They are faceless corporate people, and all their entire purpose is to make as much money as possible. So, as you can see, that is, a conflict for us as renters, that we don't want to, we want to pay a fair rate for our living arrangements. But more private equity owners in an area leads to more residents being rent burdened, and that's defined by having more than 50% of your income dedicated to rent. That's generally, like, you want to, and they say that that's the same for your mortgage payment too. Like, not more than 30% of your income should go to the cost of your housing. If you are, if it's more than that, then you're rent burdened, or um, what are they? House rich, something poor, something like that. But in the Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater area, we are actually the seventh highest nationally for private equity ownership in our housing. That is in the whole country, not just in the state, in the whole country. That is not surprising, considering how much movement happened down here from places like New York, and from higher density places. People came down and People were leaving. Obviously there are a lot of elderly people live here in Florida, so people pass away, and then their properties are bought by these equity firms, or a property gets say it's an older couple and they've owned their home for 50 years and it gets destroyed by a hurricane, and they can't, and FEMA doesn't give them enough insurance. Maybe they don't even have it because people can't get insured property insurance down here, and maybe they can't afford to rebuild that house, so they sell it, and then private equity buys it and turns it into a rental. So that's how this is happening basically. And and this has spiked since 2019, and during that time frame Bay Area rents have risen by 49%. um I kind of thought it would have been a higher rent raise. 49, I mean 49% is a lot. I thought it was going to be closer to 100, but think just from stories that I've heard from other people that have lived down here pre-pandemic and after. Yeah, so that is this I definitely there are ways also for, governments to address this, and uh, you know, having, and I don't know, like, if they yeah, there's definitely ways that city governments could address this. Making sure that ownership is more even, because if like all private equity owns like every house, I just it's not going to be sustainable, because again the purpose of those companies, of those firms, is to make money, is to maximize capital, and the only way to do that when you're owning real estate is to charge exorbitant rents to the renters. So yeah, this is just definitely it's not a and that's this is, something that's not unique just to St. Pete and the Bay Area. This is definitely all over the country, especially in your bigger cities. So that's that. And then the other story that I wanted to cover just happens the other day as well. We are still in legislative session here in Florida, which means our House and Senate representatives are up in Tallahassee proposing and passing laws. Session, I think, is almost up. I believe it only goes to the end of April. So today, yeah, with today being the 10th. So yeah, they've only got a couple more weeks. So there's limited time frames left on getting bills passed. If you're not introduced by now, if you're not on a committee now, you're probably not in the probably not getting that past this session. Oh my gosh, I'm having so many issues tonight. Anyway, but this one came has passed out of the Senate. Then needs to go over to the House now. It is that the Florida Senate has eliminated requirements that students pass algebra and language arts tests in order to graduate high school. This was introduced by Senator Corey Stevens from Tallahassee. It was approved unanimously in the Senate, which means there was some Democratic support, which does include, obviously, Senator Daryl Rusan, who represents Pinellas County. So I really would like to talk to him, hopefully sometime after session is over, to talk about these and other bills. There is no reciprocal bill in the House, so I don't know. Like, I don't think there's going to be time to get this passed this session. As I was talking about before, the time constraints that they have, as far as like you introduce a bill that has to go to committee and do all this and have hearings and do all this stuff before it can be voted on. So I'm not sure where this will actually go, but what they would do is, yeah, they would further eliminate the state testing that that remains after there have been some changes done already when the fast was eliminated. But this time it will be this what they would do instead is it would be based on quote progress monitoring end quote testing 3 times over the school year. So instead of having one big test at the end of the year, the kids would get 3 smaller tests scattered throughout the year. Um, I just thought this was interesting. I don't, and the other part that I thought was interesting is that I looked it up. Florida is actually ranked number one in education in the United States. Um, so I don't necessarily understand why we would want to weaken any of our standards, but I also do understand that those tests are really, they're not great. A lot of people have problems taking standardized tests. I was one of them. I was not. I tried last standardized test that I remember take. Well, I guess I've taken like a couple for professional ones since then, but I don't know. They haven't been as bad. But the last like standardized test I took when I was young was I took that LSATs, the test to get into law school, and I cried. I cried so hard before that test and after. Like it was just not it was not a good thing. It was not I didn't perform my best because I was so, so scared and so, so nervous. And a lot of people feel like that with with every one of these standardized tests that they take. So you really can't, it's not measuring their comprehension, it's measuring their aptitude at test taking. So if this progress monitoring is a thing that you can find where you can, do a more comprehensive evaluation of what the kids are learning, how they're learning, if they're learning up to standards, then sure, go ahead. I'm all for it. I don't think just because something's been done one way that it needs to be remain that same way over forever. I do just with, again, speaking to the national moment with the Department of Education looking to be eliminated, or at least severely hamstrung in its abilities to, provide fair education to kiddos all across the country. I that's definitely what made me pause was the timing, like combining the lessening of these standards with the possible decimation of the Department of Education. So wasn't sure the best timing of that was good. Then again, like I said, it's not going into it's only in the Senate. There's not a reciprocal bill in the House. There's not really enough time to build one. So it may be, this may be something that happens down the road, but it definitely was brought up and has already unanimously passed the Senate. So wanted to talk about it. Alrighty. So I think that's pretty much a good place to stop. Those are just the three little notes that I had, three little things that I wanted to come on and say. So yeah, I hope you all have a really good week. Thank you for tuning in. And we did a little experiment this time. I went live on YouTube since I'm doing this solo, so that just to test and see how that works. So hopefully, hopefully it's not too distracting. I don't know, like I can see the cats moving behind me more, but, like, I can see that on Zoom too, so I don't know why it's more distracting, but anyway, so yes, thank you for tuning in once again to For St. Pete's Sake. Remember to like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and on YouTube. You can find us at For Saint Pete's Sake. That's FORST Pete's with an S sake. So you got two S's in a row. At four dot sorry, at For Saint Pete's Sake. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. We'll be back here next week with more stories from the people that are doing the hard work to make our community better. Until next time, for St. Pete's sake, keep pushing for change.